I am from Peru, and I'm an artist for the last 12 years, a little more. And I have a particular background. I was a lawyer and a political scientist, and working like a diplomat for years before deciding to going out of my duties and be an artist. Some people say that I was a kind of stupid to expect to go into the PhD in law and political science for this side to my principal way of work was art. I think so, no. I think so, whatever. For years, I worked in conflict zones, and all my work is based in knowledge, in experience, and the idea that the most important point of an artist for me is the point of view of the artist, how the artist try to say, and my reactions. Another particularity before beginning that is I am an artist, but I am a curator too. I decide to curate because I don't like the shows that the curators propose me, and I create the Biennale of Grozny in Chechnya. That was a touring biennale. I create Dublin Contemporary. That was a big biennale and big economical problem. I create 2 pavilions in Venice Biennale because I create the Emergency Foundation, that is a Dutch foundation to react with art to conflicts now. And I am a collector too, and I have a gallery too, and it's very complex. Some people say it's so much, or it's the proof that you are a kind of guy to don't make something very good. I think so. It's not. It's different parts of my brain, and it's a necessity. Whatever, I try to be the most honest possible when I work in that. I will try to talk easily about each work. It's a little selection. This one is important for me. That was made for the 3 years ago for the Venice Biennale, and that's the name is Here Come the Rain Again. And basically is the confrontation of this rock that is part of the sediment of Venice. My family come from Venice, from the ghetto. They going out because Jewish persecution. And that was the beginning of my story, the travel of my family. And the butterfly came from Yurimaguas, my original place in the rainforest. The first time I make Venice Biennale, I think so we make it together in 2003, Minerva, I don't know. At this time, I arrived to Venice with the key of the house of my family in the ghetto. And that was a kind of symbolic stuff to arrive with that to the city. And from that moment, I have a very good relation with the guys in Venice, with the people in power, and that was a gift made me by the mayor of the city to take me a paint of Judeca, and offer me. Basically, it's something that was near to my family house. This is Guantanamo. It's a kind of very simple representation of the exactly size of Guantanamo, the Guantanamo jail. It's no protection in the air, and the temperature is not visible here, but I put heaters, and there was a 28 centigrades heat continuously in the place. The size is the size of the prison that you need to imagine that there's 2 persons there at a time, and I just copy. This is us. It's an enormous structure that I make it like a curator and like an artist in the terrible Dublin Contemporary. Is a nice story. The idea of Ireland was create a big show, a quinquennial, like Documenta, and at the time they decided to invite Oku Enquensor, Hans Ulrich Obrist, Christine Massel, and other personalities to create the Biennale. They asked for the Biennale practically 12 million euros. They say that was the minimum to organize a kind of project like that. The problem there was at exactly moment of the economy of the country was a disaster. And There was all these big names, but at the end, the two curators of the show, there was two fatty Latin Americans, Christian Viveros Foné and myself, and we made the Biennale with 800,000 euros. I say it because I was interested. I don't spend all. I finished with a positive balance of 2 euros. And I proved that that was possible to create a show with 165 artists, 130 new artworks, with only working in the different way. Curators are assisted persons. They continuously ask for help. And sometimes I think it's part of the problem. We decide to create a completely new system for the circulation of the pieces, centralized in 2 points, and take it to Ireland. That make an economy of 42% of the normal prices of this kind of situation. And we play hard with insurance, and that costs 10% of the normal price asked for the first idea of the Biennale. All the time working in economy. I am very obsessed with the idea of economy. When I was a teen, I have a lot of problems for political reasons with my father, and at the beginning of my adult life, when I was a teen, I was a homeless in Peru. And I know how is €1 or 1 sol or whatever you like it. And I was a civil servant for years. And in this way, public money is public money, and you need to respect. When you see in the story of Biennales, I discovered, because I study a lot that, there was practically no one apart or Biennale that was that finished with a positive balance. That provoked me problems. After that, I was invited to think to make the Sao Paulo Biennale, but they asked me to try to make it with €1 million. I think so 6 or 7 times that they normally spend. And I say, I need to going out of that because they beginning to think that I am the Ryanair of curators, capable to make it with less. This is an interesting work. The original one, there was a list of people I hate. This one, that was not the case. This is a pervert work that was made for it's big collectors, if you are familiar with that. They are all. Some collect my work. The perversion of the work that was, because I am a collector too, I know that some, we buy that we don't have it. It's a kind of reaction. I need it. I don't know why. I don't have that. I need it. And you take it. I was so crazy in one moment that I sell a house for half artwork. And this is a kind of pathology that some collectors have it. In this case, the provocation was that I put all the name of these guys, and all these guys have the right to buy the piece. And it's a mirror, and they have their names engraved. The problem is that there was only 12 versions, and there was a massacre. There was a criminal stuff because they make whatever was possible to have the piece and pay sometimes insane ways just to have it. And there was another case of people pay to be in the list. This is a kind of Christmas. I was very depressed Christmas 2 years ago. There was a lot of problem in the Mediterranean, and it's something to make for the Mother Museum. It's a Christmas tree with make it in bad wire. This is something that I made in 2003 for the young that don't speak Italian. Is Mussolini don't kill anyone. In 2003, in a famous interview at The Economist, that was the last normal president of the Union for Italy. Berlusconi said these stupid words and said that Berlusconi never sent Jewish people to the concentration camp. He sent the Jewish in holidays. I was so shocked that I decided to, it's a very expensive piece because the costume that Berlusconi have is made by the same person to make his normal costumes. That costs 10,000 euros. And I hanging him in the exactly way that the Italians hang in Mussolini. This is Amazonas. This is Aca merdolino for the Italian speaker. This, I say sometimes to be very simple that ecology is like toilet paper. Nobody is interested, and we are interested in the moment that we are in the toilet and you don't have any more toilet paper. This piece is particular. I have a lot of love for the piece because the beginning of the genesis of the piece, there was a big conversation I have with Sol Lewitt, that we work for the same galleries in Italy. And I am a very minimalist guy, and we talk and we talk, we talk. That was the beginning of the moment I began to create less and be more interested in the growth, in the possibility to make less and better, that make more and selling more. And I say that minimalism was great, but sometimes that was so boring. And I love his work, I understand very well, but sometimes it was boring. And I decided to make this piece that is toilet paper and very graphical and very minimal too. And smelly. This smell clean products. This is La Niña, La Pinta y La Santa Maria. It's 30,000 paper boats going in this direction, each direction. No, it's like immigrants are like white paper. They need to have a. You are Canadian. You know that. People come and try to have their own story. And now the difference with the first one, the Spaniards there, is that it's so much problem, and there are so much people to trying to going out. That is a kind of very accidental way to work. This is Oil Shame. That was a good piece, very simple and problematic too, because that was the first artwork make the cover of the Financial Times at the time of the conflict in Iraq. The problem was that there was a work for collectors to have it, and after that you suffer because some people try to ask you to make only barrels. And that was a shame. I like this kind of very pop objects for two reasons. They are very simple, and that offer you the possibility to touch a lot of people. And the first one is I am very influenced by the analysis, and I'm very influenced for some thinkers like Winnicott. Winnicott created a theory in one moment to say that, for simplify, kids have a kind of hard disk in the head that you receive image, and you decide what you preserve. But you have the backup. All is there, all is there, all is there. And the important stuff is in one moment put in front of a person a kind of image that is so simple that they understand immediately because they have it in the backup. And it's the stuff that I try to make it sometimes with political issues. Some people think that it's very simplest, but I say that it's very complicated to arrive to the perfect image that explain the problem. We go into this conflict only for the oil. This is my brain, and again, it's talk about immigration and talk about the quantity of borders you need to going out for be a nice person or a creative or whatever you prefer. This is London Calling. Is a kind of punky flag. I attack the flag, and it's not so visible, but I tried after to heal the stuff with safety pins. I am profoundly attached to the idea of the European Union. I work for that idea. I was in that. And I think whatever arrives, we need to help to continue to be an entity. This is China. Sometimes I explain you the way I work. Somebody invite me to a situation, and I check. For example, today we make something about Tania Bruguera exactly in Toronto because there was the anniversary, the 6-month anniversary of the detention of Tania. In this case, in Italy, they invite me to talk about the arrival of China in the free market. and I decided to work with the shoes. When China have the right to selling free without any control the quantity of shoes that they produce, they destroyed the Italian market in 4 days. In 4 days, they become control totally the market. Now the only possibility for Europeans to continue in this industry, in this case that was for the mother, is only the luxury shoes. Cheap shoes as any more possible to create somewhere. And it's very simple, and all that you see there are copies, exactly the better copies of famous shoes, famous European shoes. I am a collector sometimes. They are, this one, I have a big collection of, what is the word in English? I have a, okay, I try to explain. In each African culture, we have a kind of protection that is offered, a mask, at the strong guy of the village. The guy who is the strong man of the place is the guy to protect this kind of image. It's a mask, no? The figure is a fake one. They are originals. Now, I utilize the symbology. This kind of products, they are not offered to the strong guy of the village. They are offered to the strong guy capable to going out, emigrated, going to Europe of America and send money to the village. And I call that the Ulysses series. It's, my only action was turn the mask, that is a virility mask, sorry, what is the definition? They are virility masks. I turn it, that become a cayuco, and that is the name in African for all about the bots. They are bots now, and they represent that. The problem with these kind of pieces is that each mask costs more or less 25,000 euros. And that was funny to utilize very expensive material, but I explained sometimes that you never know what arrives with immigration. And I was interested to offer value to a symbol of immigration. This is Discrimination Day. In 2004, I won a big prize, the Guangzhou Biennale, and at the same time I have a very personal crisis because my assistant committed suicide. And when you won a prize like that, you receive money, a lot, and you receive a prize. In my case, in Guangzhou, that was a kind of horrible Anish Kapoor, in something little, that was terrible. And when you are French, that is my case, you receive a letter that they say the president, vous êtes la fierté de la France. A very positive way to say you are important. I was so depressed that I take the plane to take care of my friend. My friend was Jewish, and the family refused the idea of suicide. And when you have a dead person, you need to have ablutions, you need to take care of nobody make it, and I decide to make it myself, and I'm going. And I make something stupid. I take the plane to Amsterdam via Paris, and when I was in Paris, I was immediately, I looked terrible, and I was arrested, and somebody take my passport and say, wow, this is a great copy. And when they open my bag, they see the money, and they say this letter of Mr. Chirac to say, you are, and say, immigrants are incredible now. They try to go into the country with a presentation of Chirac. And they take me and they put me in jail in the first floor of the Charles de Gaulle. And it's a terrible experience because this is against all the image I have about my country. This is a terrible phrase made for humiliate foreigners and expect to be deported, especially Muslim persons and women. And in one moment, that was a lot of time after, somebody arrived and say, you know, he's Jota Castro, he was a diplomat, he's an important guy for an administration. Why you make that? And asked the director of the the detention center to say, I'm sorry. And the guy says something that make me think about the piece and say, he don't looks like what you take me he is. And essentially it's true. I feel French, but I don't look French. I make the big schools in France, but people in my sometimes check her bags when they are near to me. And that's a right of, you know that. You don't need that. And when you work in art, in contemporary art, it's not so much brownies of Chinese, of black people in the market, in the circuit. It's just some hundreds. And when you go into the museums, a lot of time the only person who looks like you is the person to help you to hang the stuff. Now that changed because it's the situation. Everywhere, and you discover that in the subway, it's all over the world there, but in art centers, you never know foreign people, not so much. And I was curious about it, and I asked to the guys of the Palais de Tokyo, how many people you expect at the opening? And they say 5,000. I decided to change completely the show and make new pieces and call this action discrimination date. I decided to invite 5,000 colored people to the museum and organize the enter in this way. And that became a scandal because I refused the access to the minister and say, make the queue. The minister was gay at the time and say, if you need to go in immediately, take the others and say that you feel sometimes discriminated because you are gay. And he said, no, I am the minister of France. I say, make the queue. And at the end of the queue, there was my people, there was African people that that finally decide, or the delete fascists, they have completely the right to see you. No, you don't go. And at the end of the experience, there was a lot of pieces talking about it, but there was a shock to see some people become very nervous when they see black people or Arabic people in an institution, in a cultural institution. But after there was a kind of party. The last word was made by the boss of the group of black people to help me, that came with a magnum of champagne to me and cry and say, it's my last day work. Jota, I have 6 kids. I make six French kids. And I have the disaster in my life that I was obligated to refuse the access to some discotheques and party to my kids because they are black. And today, I'm going to Senegal now that I'm a retreat people, and I need to drink with you because I was so ashamed for 30 years to refuse access to people like me. And that was simple like that. I was attacked 27 cases. I was accused of racism. I won all. I lost money only, but I feel comfortable. This is a kind of, when we're thinking about Toronto and the Pan American Games sometimes, it's a very nice way to talk about security, you know, and the obsession with security and how the people are convinced to protect you with this smile. It's make it with handcuffs, police staff, and security mirrors. This is one of my first work. When I decided to going out of my duties, I was in Paris, and I say I need to be an artist, and the people ask me there, what school you make it? And in France, I don't know if you are familiar, there are the national schools, the universities, and the École Nationale. There are 4. If you're going out of these 4, you have potentially the possibility to be an artist. Universities, not really, and our regional school like that. And the people say me, it's impossible, you are not an artist. And I decided to working in the street. And I make it this stuff of the protect the manhood of the guy with the European flag and utilize the language of the union at the time and ask for the side of integration. I was so lucky that some people arrived at the time. The first version was by for the people to create Calvin Klein, the investors, and I changed the original first poster for thousands of posters. I was very surprised that I became a kind of gay icon that was in all back rooms in Paris at the time. And the gay community helped me. The first time somebody write about me, that was the Front National, and that was in reaction and somebody see that in a gay place. But I put it in a lot of different capitals in Europe. Difficult to have an erection for idea that is not sexual, and the picture was made in one shot. It was very difficult to have someone to have a continuous erection for a picture like that. This is a very sad story. This is my collection of human bones. This is desaparecidos, people from all over the world that nobody asked. And I have friends to send me material and send me pieces. This is a guy to see a person that there was a driver in Rwanda, and he protected the person that he was in charge, and he was attacked. And some years after, we discovered the body, part of the body, and I received that. I have it at the moment. In one moment, that was potentially a piece that was presented for Documenta, but I have a big fight with the curator. I don't make it. But I have 100 of that. And the idea is talking about ecology too. Is whatever, we destroy the planet, but we destroy human beings. And the problem with human beings is that it's impossible to make it growing again. This one is funny. It's, I was invited by the Spain state to make something in the street, and I decided to make it this stuff for put money for the kids, and I asked just to please give me back the money from the Incas. The funny stuff that was that the project during the street only half night, it was vandalized, and the guys tell me that there was Latin American guys to make that kids, and I laughing because when you see that there was more of 300 kilos, there was 3 meters steel stuff in there was somebody, you know, Spain is full of people to have a lot of rights, and there was something. We continue to fight with the museum because we sell into an important American museum, but I asked to have my piece again. For the moment, it's the only stuff that exists, the picture. I hate my actual president. I suffered because Mr. Hollande is terrible. And one day I decided that La Imagination au Pouvoir was dead. And I make this tomb for that. It's very sad. I was so happy when he arrived to the power. But I discovered that technically, he was a parachick of the party all the time, and he never have the guts and the balls to make an interesting change. And after, of course, international conjuncture is not really nice, but we have a big problem, and potentially we have it in the future, 20 years of right wing in France, and that makes me suffer. This is kerygma, that is more than a dogma. It's a big cross made with solar panel. And this is interesting because nobody discussed the importance of ecological issues. Now these panels are interested because they show you the situation. The situation is that they are full of mercury. They are really dangerous. And the people don't know because that was so important to working in this technology. And the first one, especially the ones made in China, are really dangerous. Maybe in 10 years we're talking more about it because the industry makes sufficient money to change to new models. But be careful with this because nobody discusses now. Whatever you say about ecology is good. and you never know. There are so many examples of what they make it just for consume. This is mortgage. That doesn't need explanation. It's make it with dollars. This is, again, monotheist. This, I make it that for the Moscow Biennale, and technically it's a prance, I don't know, for the, some people interested in BDSM here. It's, I don't know, I don't remember the name. It's, I put an announce in Le Monde, asked for a exhibitionist person, and I convinced the guys to make a Prince Albert. It's a kind of piercing, and the locket is in gold, and you have the three sacred books, Bible, Torah, and Quran in gold. And I say religion is the most dangerous arm at the moment. And the faster we're going out of that, the better for humanity is my personal point of view. This is no more, no less. It's talk about transculturization. You know what it is? The persons that live in another culture, another language, and this culture will become the vehicular culture, the vehicular language. A lot of immigrants know that. One day, talking with my analyst, I am an analyst for the last 11 years, and I say that sometimes he tried to ask me what is sometimes my reaction about all these issues, and I say it's a pain in the ass. And from that, a lot of my work are like that. I talk with the analysts, and both the image arrived. And the situation here was different. I convinced people with PhD, very in society, good situations, but with these little problems that you have when you come from another place and the people that don't finish to accept you like a original guy from there. And they are all heterosexuals, and that was important because that was more to going to see the doctor and have a touche rectal. That was more because there are phallic optics. We make with a lot of cliches, 20-centimeter objects. And they accept each one to be penetrated by the object to represent the culture that dominate their lives. I have it, the Spaniard version, the El Quijote, La Torre de Pisa, Berlin Tower, and these three ones. This is in Venice Biennale too. This is Shanghai. I don't remember the work of the name of this object in English. Fingerstick, exactly. Fingerstick that in Italian, the name of that is Shanghai. For me, that was the better way to represent what is global economy now. When you come from France or from Europe, you have the impression that we are incredible and the country and the economy, and it's any more like that. That represents very well what is economy now. If you take one, all change. Like probably tomorrow when Greeks say no to Europe and they decide to don't pay the debt. And for me, it's a perfect representation, and it's perfect representation because I am interested in finance. I'm good in that. And you don't imagine how people play with money. It's like a kid's game sometimes. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And I practice too, and sometimes I decide to going out of that because it's a shame, it's a joke. Yeah, I need to finish, then tell me. Schengen, no borders, we don't need it. Treppenweiss is a kind of situation now. It's start with bread. That symbol is our time for me. Tricky. Say gates. What is that in English? L'air du temps en français. The moment, the stuff of the moment. Since we are a society that kill and destroy or represent very fast image. I was in Egypt at the time of the revolution. And immediately I understand that was not a revolution, that was something for television. And television offered the possibility to the people to have the impression that the world changed or there's something incredible that arrived and is forever. and it's nothing to do with that. It's just the power of image. And the people like and change their love about all this kind of situation in a fastened way. And I decided to make this guillotine that is make it in aluminum mirror. And this is for finish something that is not my work. I pay tribute to Tania Bruguera today. We make it at a Corking gallery. We make a kind of performance to talk about the serial issues that represent that in a lot of different places, not only in Cuba, people don't respect any more human rights, or they don't respect the more basically one, like, for example, the freedom of speech. Because I'm interested in human rights, I need to tell you that Tania is not the only one in this situation. It's 1,700 persons in Cuba with the same problem. And it's a shame. You need to know, especially all the people to go into Baradero, Biennales, and all that, and they don't think that there's something out of the light. And I need to make it too, because she's one of the most important artists of our time, and she makes something very interesting, because for people like Minerva, myself, or Picasso to try to make it with Guernica, that was all the time the idea of artwork the artwork to change the world nobody arrived to make it. Now, some artists arrive to change a little the reality, and Tania is one of these. She is in the situation to make the crossover and go into the serial social issues in her country and put together dissidents, civil society, and art at the time. And I really I have a lot of respect for her, and I have a big disappointment with a lot of people that are my friends, and they don't accept to participate in that in Cuba or in other countries just before artists have a kind of a very special situation in Cuba, and a lot of people have the moral in the pocket or in the past. Thank you so much for your attention, and apologize again for I don't feel so comfortable tonight, and this way I'm not very clear. Thanks.